Hello and welcome to another episode of the Great Legal Mind Show. Today I have with me Mr. Sanjay Hegde, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India. Mr. Hegde has played a vital role in CAA and NRC, and where he represented a lot of people who actually were declared foreigners. He was also the interlocutor with Shaheen Bagh protesters. So I will start with the interview with his views on the entire CAA and NRC, where it is and where it is going to be from now on. Mr. Hegde, very warm welcome to the show.
Thank you, Aman.
I think you've played a vital role in this entire process. I mean, besides representing certain people, you were also the interlocutor. And when the conversations were going on, I think several rounds have happened, but I think it was still inconclusive, and if that is correct. And I think the COVID actually came in. I remember, because of COVID, then they were all like sent back home. It was needed also. So where exactly the conversation was left, because I think that is where it is going to start from when it actually comes up next. So if you could actually throw some lights, if that it can be discussed.
No, of course it can be discussed. See, the first thing that we need to do is to shift the NRC process and the CAA amendment. See, the NRC process was peculiar to Assam. And
Correct.
And in Assam, there is a problem with regard to how do you define a citizen of Assam, of India, who happens to be in Assam. There is a linguistic part of it also. Now, to keep a long story short, essentially there is a feeling in Assamese circles that they are being overrun by people from Bangladesh or of Bangladeshi origin. But what this sentiment fails to recognize is that Assam, Bangladesh, and indeed all of India were one common country under the British till 1947.
Absolutely. And you were talking about in earlier episode about the Constitution Committee and all of that, and I think that time Jinnah was also staking claim besides on Bangladesh and also on Assam.
Yes, so when partition happened, one district of Assam through a referendum opted to join Bangladesh. That was the Sylhet district. There were other districts which were probably Muslim majority, but who through the intervention of Gopinath Bardoloi and others, like this was for instance the district of Dhubri, decided no, that we shall stick with India. And courtesy that you have that famous chicken neck in Siliguri. And so the point is in Assam, it's not only a question of boundaries. People sometimes did cross boundaries. There were terrible things that happened in East Pakistan, which caused a lot of people to move over. But that we are talking of in the 1960s and 1970s. But before that, boundaries moved around people. So you really did not have a definition of what is today's Assam. In the old days, you had Assam as a chief commissionerate being ruled from Dhaka at one point of time after the partition of Bengal. You also had these other 7 states, the 7 sisters, also being part of Assam. So there's a huge confusion in geography, in history, and in definitions. And so there's another thing that happened was on March 25th, 1971, the Bangladesh movement really took off when the West Pakistan Army or the Pakistan Army attacked the students in Dhaka University. That is when the great bloodbath happens. People moved from Bangladesh into India. They went into the states of Tripura, they went into the state of West Bengal, they went into the state of Assam. So, and after that, after the Bangladesh war, there was the Indira Gandhi Mujibur Rahman Pact, under which it was said that everybody who came prior to March 25th, 1971 would be taken to be Indian, and those who came thereafter, Bangladesh offered to take them back. But that has never really happened. So this issue as to who came when and what and how do you define a Bangladeshi is part of that process. And the NRC, to my mind, was a great destructive intervention by the Supreme Court. It was the updation of the NRC.
Absolutely.
Now there was an NRC, there was a National Register of Citizens, which was drawn up in the 1950s, which was an administrative document, which said, oh, these people are Indians,
Right.
these people may be Bangladeshis, this, that and the other. It was an incomplete exercise. In some districts it does not even exist. What the Supreme Court did was, okay, let us update. You prove your ancestry to be linked to somebody there, and then we will assume that you are Indian. That's the basis on which the entire exercise of the NRC has proceeded. We have a phrase in computers called GIGO, garbage in, garbage out.
Absolutely.
If you start with the wrong premise, you will get wrong results. So the end result is that we have an NRC updation with which nobody is satisfied. Not the ethnic Assamese, not those who were left out, and not the administrators either. So this is one separate process. During the course of this process, what happened was that there was the tribunals to determine illegal migrants, that also got struck down by the Supreme Court. The state went back to something which was pre-constitutional, which is called the Foreigners Act. You had to prove that you were not a foreigner before a tribunal. Now that, if you catch somebody from Japan or Germany for whom this was designed in 1946, very easy for them to prove
Right.
either they were Indian or they were not Indian.
Right.
But when you apply it to South Asians, it gets very, very difficult.
Yeah.
So this also, and what did you do in the meanwhile if somebody couldn't prove? You put them in
Detention center.
in a detention center saying we'll send you to Bangladesh one day.
Yeah.
Bangladesh isn't taking them.
Yeah.
And there was endless detention. All this entire exercise cast its shadow over the rest of India. People were watching. Assam does not live in a vacuum. And what happened was that there was this Citizenship Amendment Bill which said that look, we will grant citizenship to some kind of people, but we will not grant it to Muslims.
Right. Right.
That provided the spark which had protests. Then these protests were all over the country, including Jamia. What happened in Jamia, then there was a police attack which was being protested. That protest then moved to Shaheen Bagh,
Right.
and it was allowed to fester.
Right.
It was deliberately allowed to fester because there were elections in Delhi at that particular point of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was in those circumstances that the Supreme Court, while dealing with a petition which said get the roads opened,
Yeah. Because roads were closed by
there were protesters who sat on the street
on the one side of the
on the road going from Apollo Hospital towards Noida.
Right.
The protesters said that they had occupied one side of the street. The police also had barricades, but the police also had very good reasons for those barricades.
Right.
You saw what subsequently happened with Mr. Kapil Mishra and the others, which happened in another area of Delhi.
Right. Absolutely.
The police's idea of protection is to create a safe zone through barricades. So they barricaded it on one side towards Noida and on another side towards this one. So effectively, a much larger area than the actual squatting area all became a no-go zone.
Yeah. Now, so let's come back to the fundamental question that whether this is going to come back and applied to the entire country. I mean, we started with Assam, and then the whole conversation or the confusion was around this entire population.
So this question is, are you going? This is a question for the administration to really answer, and to probably mollify those who live in apprehension. That are we going to start chasing up everybody's ancestry and find out who came when, and are you going to define who is an Indian citizen or who is not an Indian citizen based on whether you can recollect your grandfather or great grandfather's name and identify it on a document of the 1950s, 1960s? You must remember that prior to computerization, there was so much of non-standardization.
There were no birth certificates, nothing.
Nothing. So most people don't have documents. In fact, I can possibly only tell you my grandfather's name on the paternal side.
Right.
But he died sometime in the 1930s.
Yeah. But then what happens is that if you are somebody other than Muslim, then even if you don't have your document, you are here. I mean,
the inarticulate major premise is that those who are here were here, but that some people who are found here did not necessarily come from here, or more importantly, have a different place to go to.
Yeah, right. Which was given in 1947 to
that messaging is what caused the problem. So otherwise, what happened in Assam remains in Assam.
Absolutely. Now, so let me ask you that I think there are now petitions on the constitutionality of this entire thing. Where are they? What do you think about the constitutionality of this entire thing?
See, constitutionality and how it is checked for is a different process altogether. When you check for constitutionality, you only check for power. Do you have the competence? If you have the competence, and Parliament generally has the competence, then is it violative of any fundamental right? And if it is violative, is it manifestly arbitrary? Now that last box of manifestly arbitrary is a new constitutional development since the Triple Talaq case, since Justice Rohington Nariman's judgment in Shaira Bano. That is still to be fleshed out. Currently, manifestly arbitrary can be something which outrages a judge, and so you have what is called the length of the chancellor's foot in that. I also, as a matter of policy, do not necessarily predict the outcome of any litigation. Yes, there is a challenge. If you are going to give citizenship to oppressed communities in your neighborhood, are you then able to discriminate on the basis of the religion that they follow?
Yeah.
Because quite frankly, those who oppress
like
human beings in Pakistan, Afghanistan or Iran, they are more likely to oppress fellow Muslims
Yes, yes.
than others.
Yes.
So there will be two kinds of oppressed people:
Absolutely.
oppressed Muslims
Yeah.
and oppressed non-Muslims. Now, can you say that I will give it only to the oppressed non-Muslims but not give it to the Muslims?
Yeah, that doesn't stack up well. Yeah. Now, and I think, I think the court has also asked the government to frame the rules, and I think which has not happened as yet. So, where are they? And, I mean, if you were to kind of, suggest a rule, what those rules could be?
No, see, the rules can't be dehors the act. If the act makes a provision saying that it will be only for Hindus, Sikhs, Parsis or something, then you can't by rule say extend it to everyone. So, but the very fact that the government is not notifying the rules suggests that they do not want to precipitate the situation. So, whenever the rules come in, you'll have to, I don't think they will move the needle forward. What has to be looked at is the act. And why is citizenship so important? Citizenship, as somebody correctly pointed out, is the right to have rights. It is the right to belong. And there are United Nations declarations against rendering people stateless. So, this is something which is at a very emotive level, but how it will play out in a constitutional challenge is something which I would not rush to prediction.
And 2024 is approaching very fast. We've entered 2023 now. Do you think it's going to come out of the bottle sometime soon?
Are you talking about the CAA NRC?
Yeah.
In pure terms of administration, it would be an unwise administrator who would go back to something which has provoked. But in terms of electoral politics, in terms of the politics of polarization, in terms of what shall we say, majority consolidation, it might work well. So just before the elections, if something comes out, some genie is let out, but those are political considerations. I can't predict.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time today on
Thank you,
this.
Aman.
I think, I mean, we'll find another time too, because I think there are so many things to be talked about, so many matters that you've actually done related to this, but due to paucity of time today, we'll have to stop. But I think we'll take out time some other day, some other Sunday, and discuss these things in further details. Thank you so much, Mr. Hegde.
Thank you.
That was Mr. Sanjay Hegde on the Great Legal Mind show. Thank you so much for watching. See you again.